Hello, I am Mimi Lichtenstein, and today I am here with Sarah Ranfone, and we are going to talk all about adventures to have in Chile. Sarah, I'm excited to have you on. You have been in Santiago for 9 years and have a depth of knowledge of Chile and especially Tierra Hotel, so welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mimi, so much for having me. I'm happy to be here and talk about my favorite subject, which is Chile.
Which is Chile. And I know you're just back from a trip to go see some wineries, so we'll look forward to talking about that later in the show. When, we usually start this, we talk a little bit about the overview of the map because all of these beautiful places to go in the world, you could stay there for 6 months and not see everything. But for most people who go for a week, 14 days, they have to focus on the different areas. So to start, would you want to give us a little bit of an overview of the country? And I've circled some of the different highlights on the map.
Yeah, definitely. So Chile is a very long, skinny country, as you can see on the map. Actually, if you put it horizontally, it's the same length as the US is from coast to coast.
Wow.
So it's very long, to give you an idea. And because of that length through most of South America, we have a ton of different ecosystems and climates and environments, which you'll see not just in Tierra, like throughout the entire country. So you start in the north, closer to the equator, of course. So it's going to be warmer, it's arid, it's drier there. That's where we have the Atacama Desert, the driest desert in the world, and of course, a really popular tourist destination. We have Santiago, which is kind of right in the middle of the country. And here it's more Mediterranean climate. We have the beaches nearby. We have the Andes Mountains. And it's pretty stable weather throughout the year. As we go a little bit further down south, we'll get to the famed lakes region with tons of lakes. It's green, it's lush. And there we have Chiloe Island, which is where we have one of our hotels, Tierra Chiloe. And then finally, we get down to what we call the end of the world, which is the road to Patagonia is literally called the road to the end of the world. And there we have, of course, Patagonia and the Torres Del Paine. And of course, we have Easter Island, which is kind of like our version of Hawaii here in Chile, way off of the map in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. But that's it. A lot of climates and it's a lot to explore. So like you said, you definitely need at least a week or 14 days to try to get in as much as possible.
Right, especially when you consider how long it takes to get there, right? And yeah, good reminder for everyone that Chile is in the southern hemisphere, so their seasons are, technically opposite of ours. So think about that when you're planning your trip for sure. And so I like to start with a big, beautiful photo for those people who are listening. This is a picture of Torres Del Paine. You want to tell us a little bit about this one, Sarah?
Yeah, so Torres Del Paine is definitely one of the most iconic attractions that people travel all the way to Chile for from around the world. The Torres Del Paine National Park is actually just, I say that it's small. It's a pretty big park, but it's small compared to the entirety of Patagonia, which is basically the entire southern cone of Chile and Argentina. But the Torres del Paine are very famous. The 3 towers that you see here in the photo that we're looking at, this is a very famed hike. It is quite an adventure to get there. You do have to be pretty fit. It's about an 8-hour hike if you do it with us, starting from the base in the French Valley and doing the hike up and back down. There's no other way to get up there. There's no helicopters allowed. So you really have to be willing to make that trek to see these natural world wonders.
If you're not yet in shape, it's a good motivation to get yourself in shape prior to going on it.
Yeah,
well, hiking is definitely something that Chile is known for. And, when you look at pictures like that, or you look at the mountain ranges and the beautiful hikes, you can easily see why. I mean, the landscapes range from these stunning, peaks and snowy mountains to, I love this because tell us a little bit about where this is with the cute little pink flamingos.
Yeah, this is in the Salar de Atacama, so the Atacama salt flats in the Atacama Desert. It's famous for being a natural habitat to 3 varieties of flamingos. It's a protected site. So there's a little pathway or a couple of pathways that tourists can come and take and just be right up near to the flamingos and watch them fly overhead. And it's just such an amazing place.
I would agree with you. And I think what's so fun is that it is so diverse when you're in Chile. So you can be biking, near the salt flats and the desert, and you can also go biking down in the mountains and the lakes region. So that's the next thing on topic on our list. So hiking, biking, mountain biking, road biking. It's sort of, an endless playground for people who love to be active and outdoors on their vacations. And then you have the opportunity to even go glacier hiking. This is a picture of Perito Moreno Glacier. You want to tell us a little bit about this? This one is located near, how close is this to one of your lodges?
Perito Moreno is actually located on the Argentine side in El Calafate. So that's like a 5-hour drive. But we do have the Gray Glacier, which is in the Torres Del Paine National Park. And that's just about an hour drive from the hotel. That's in Torres del Paine too. And they do offer the glacier hiking for those who are really fearless. But there's also other options. You can see it. There's some great sightseeing places, and you can also do the Gray Glacier boat ride, which happens on the Gray Lake, and you can actually take a boat right up to the edge of the glaciers, and that's a really amazing experience as well.
So beautiful. Well, I'm going to be doing some glacier hiking myself next week, so I'll be ready for it. Not in Chile, in Alaska, but that's okay. And then, so here's another picture of that iconic hike that you can take into Torres del Paine. Another option is horseback riding. For people who love horses, or, if you're not a big horseman, but you just want to, have another way to go out and explore, to be able to do it again in the desert area. This is a picture from Atacama, or to go do it in the more lush area down by the lakes region in Patagonia. You can do it in both places and have totally different experiences.
Yeah, and a really great thing is we work with all local gauchos at Tierra, Patagonia and Tierra Chiloe, and they are so amazing with horses. And so they're able to offer like a bunch of different trails and different options. They're really good at matching people. Like if you're more experienced or less experienced with all of their different horses, they know which ones are like the crazier horses and which ones are a little bit easier to get along with. So they're really great at, finding a horse for anybody, regardless of your experience level.
And what I love about Chile and Argentina are the gauchos. So it's a perfect example of, they are people who are obviously from the country, have tons of knowledge about the local area and the cultures. And so they're not just taking you on, a ride and pointing out the things that are around you, but you can ask them all sorts of questions and learn from them all about the Chilean culture and the, what it's like to live there now, what it's been like, what their family history is in the area. Just a wealth of information. So they're fun to talk to.
Yeah, definitely.
And then when you're out by Chiloe, where one of your other places, your other hotels are, you have the opportunity to be on the water, for example, going kayaking, and other places, river rafting, which we're also doing in Alaska. So this is perfect.
You're preparing for your Chile trip.
Well, I've never taken my kids to Chile. I've only been there without them. And so I think, yes, it's obviously a perfect fit for my family and for all of my active and adventurous family clients out there. And then when you are in the desert, perhaps give us a little bit of a sense of what it's like. If people are going down, what's the best time of year if you're going to head out to Atacama?
So the Atacama Desert, our hotel there is open all year usually because the weather doesn't vary that much throughout the year. It is a dry, hot, arid desert. So really any time of year, I would say probably the shoulder season. So spring and fall, which are actually going to be opposite of your spring and fall there. But around March, April, May, September, October are usually really great times to go. The weather is still perfectly beautiful, and you're not going to run into as many tourists as you would during the high season here, which is like December, January, February.
Okay. And I love, we've taken our kids on desert vacations before in Morocco, and, there's a lot of fun things to do, whether it be just, walking along the ridges like these kiddos are doing, or going sandboarding on, like a kind of like a wakeboard down the hills, sort of like you're actually skiing, or on a snowy mountain, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't throw in any pictures of skiing, but Chile is also a huge popular ski destination. And for Americans who want to extend their season right into our summertime, it's a very popular place to go, with many beautiful ski resorts down there too.
Yeah.
I love beach walks, and this is out in Chiloe by your Tierra, Chiloe. Tell us a little bit about what is we'll go into, a little more detail on the hotel later, but what's the environment of Chiloe like, being, off the coast?
Yeah, Chiloe is a really magical island. It's very much off the beaten path. When we talk about our hotels being off the beaten path, Chiloe is definitely probably the furthest out there. It's a very much undiscovered island. We have a couple of main towns on the big island of Chiloe, and then on the Pacific side, which is what you're looking at in this hotel, it's really just totally untouched. So it kind of feels like Jurassic Park. It's really green, it's wet. We have a really great hike at the hotel called Tricolor, and that's because you go through during the hike 3 different colors. So the sandy beaches, the forest, and then finally the blue waters once you get to the ocean at the end. So it's really diverse environment. It has a UNESCO World Heritage Site forests there. So it's really unique. It rains every single day of the year there. So you do have to be prepared for rain. Not all day, every day, but at some point. And there's actually a great local saying that if it's not raining, it's because it's going to rain.
Okay, that's good to know. So you dress appropriately.
Yeah, definitely.
And, being out on the water, obviously on a boat anywhere, is always something I love to do, particularly with kids. But it gives you an opportunity to explore not just the island, but, around the island. And we'll talk about the wildlife in Chile in a minute. But you also, when you're there in Chile, you get really good food. There are, Relay and Chateau properties like the Awasi Atacama with this picture of, it looks like some lamb. There are amazing food, amazing, vegetarian, fresh, local meats raised in Chile, where you will definitely be able to have delicious food the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
And then the wineries we touched a little bit on in the beginning, that you just came back from seeing some wineries outside of Santiago. I know a lot of people, if they go to Santiago, and we'll talk about that a little later too, you want a little bit of the culture, capital, urban feel when you're there, and you can escape the city a couple times to go to one of these beautiful vineyards that aren't too far outside the city. The one that you just went to, or the couple that you went to see, how far were they from Santiago?
I just went to one in the Casablanca Valley. It's called Matatich. It's a very prestigious vineyard, very nice, cool climate wines, so Syrahs and Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs. And that's only about an hour and a half outside of the city. So super easy to do just as a day trip.
Yeah.
What we actually did was, because it's towards the coast, we drove all the way out to the beach and had lunch there, and then drove back in towards Santiago. So you actually pass through the Casablanca Valley to go to the beach. And we did that all in the same day, because the country's so skinny. It's really accessible to get from the city to the Casablanca Valley, or to Valparaiso and to Viña del Mar, the beaches, or even to go up into the mountains to the ski resorts that you mentioned before are also close by, or some of the bigger wineries that have your very famous Chilean Carmenere, or your Cabernet Sauvignon and Malbecs. Your more full-bodied red wines are going to be produced up there, but it's all very accessible. You can even get to some of the wineries just by metro from the city. Nice.
And so do you have a favorite type of Chilean wine?
I love the Syrah at Matatich, where we went yesterday. So that was a very nice gift to myself after being in lockdown for so long. It was great to get out and have my Chilean Syrah.
Nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I love this picture, and for those of you who are listening, The nighttime stars, there are night sky preserves, international night sky preserves all over the world, and many places in Chile are some of them. And there are observatories that you can go to that are open to the public, some that are closed to the public. But even if you're just sitting at your, hotel, this is a picture from the Oasi in Patagonia, and looking out at the sky, you can see how magical and beautiful it is. Sarah, would you say there's a big difference? I mean, imagine you living in Santiago, obviously light pollution is happening there. Big difference between going outside at night, looking at the stars versus being up in Atacama or Patagonia?
Yeah, definitely. Especially Atacama. If you're into stargazing and astronomy, Atacama is going to be the best place to go for stargazing. It has some of the clearest skies in the world, and it's actually home to one of the biggest telescopes in the world, which is the Alma Observatory, where astronomers from all over the world come to study the skies. That observatory is actually not, well, it's open to the public, but you can't look at their telescope because it's way too big and too nice for us civilians to use. But there are a lot of locals that use telescopes, and they're really great in teaching us about not just about the stars and the planets themselves, but they actually teach the ancient Atacamanian ways of learning about the black spaces in between the stars, which is how they actually created their calendars. So it's really interesting.
I think that's a good example of when you're going on vacation, you're still learning, and it's so educational, particular for kids. So if you have kids that are interested in astronomy, to be able to meet with someone who, PhD in astronomy, to learn about not only the stars and what they look like now, but the history of how the Chileans, worked with them and used them in their lives as the last thousands of years.
Yeah, definitely.
And wildlife. So I love wildlife. Here's another picture of some flamingos dipping their heads in the water. And you all also have little cute penguins hopping about. And I know depending upon the time of year, there's whale watching down near the end of the world, as you call it, far down south. Do you have a favorite place or, wildlife area that you go to?
Chiloe is really great, especially on the boat, because you can see certain times of year, you can actually see penguins on Chiloe. You can see dolphins, and they've even spotted, I haven't personally seen them, but they've spotted orca whales during the summer at Chiloe on the boat. And of course, Chiloe also has a ton of bird life. So if you're an avid bird watcher, that's a really great place to go. And then I also love Patagonia for the pumas. Technically, you're definitely not supposed to track pumas, and it's not something that we offer. But we do work with local puma foundations that protect them, and we can use their cameras, and we kind of know where they're going to be. So I've seen pumas on pretty much every time that I've been to Patagonia, and it's just the most incredible, and makes you feel very kind of small and scared, and like this isn't my habitat. It makes you feel really respectful and grateful for them allowing you to be in their space.
Absolutely. Well, I love seeing wildlife in the wild. It's one of my favorite things. So it's nice to know there's many different opportunities. And then the petroglyphs, being able to go and again, study and learn about these ancient drawings and the different places. This one I think is in Yerbas Buenas. There's many different places. And then of course, Easter Island. A lot of people are fascinated with Easter Island. So going out there, which, is a little bit of a trek because it is far, far off the coast. But you can go see all these moai. I think there are over 800 of them that have been found. And, many of them are visible to this day. I personally don't know all the history about them, but if I plan a trip and I get there, that I'm for sure going to find out more about them. But I mean, they just are so, unique looking, and the fact that there are so many of them is just an amazing sight to see.
It's definitely one of our greatest mysteries. It's kind of like our Stonehenge, where it's like nobody really knows how or why they're there, but they're very interesting.
And do you know? So if somebody is going to be heading out there, my knowledge is you just hop on a flight from Santiago, go out there, stay a couple days, and then go back. So it's an easy add-on if you do want to have it. It's not something that sort of intricate planning is needed. It's just really tacking on a few extra days while you're in Chile.
Yeah.
And this, here's a photographer here out there probably about to take pictures of the sunset. I mean, whether it be the wildlife or the sunset or the mountains or the desert, like there's just so many opportunities if you're an avid photographer to get lots of great shots while you're there. And in Chiloe, you guys have these beautiful little houses that are so colorful up on stilts over the water. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, these are called the palafitos. So they're stilt houses that are, as you can see, houses built on stilts. The entire culture of the Chilote people is built around the water. And actually the hotel, if you see a picture, I think we'll see later of Chiloe, it kind of looks like it resembles a giant stilt house. So it's kind of built up on stilts and overlooking the water. But it's just a very giant version of those. And that is very much built into, like I said, the local culture where almost everybody works in fishing or in sometimes I forget words in English, but in not just fishing, what like sea fish, no, not sea fish, seafood, like mussels and clams and I'm not sure what the word for them is. Yeah, mariscos.
Mariscos. I think shellfish, or no, it's not just shellfish though. So it's yeah, that's a great question. It's mariscos. In Espanol.
I guess they're also fishermen, but yeah.
My daughter came home from Guatemala yesterday and she was there for a month. And so she's like, oh, finally, speaking English again. But you forget the words. And then there's other opportunities for people who, have done the active, adventurous things all day, and now they just would like to relax. And it could be spas. This one happens to be a picture of the Tierra in Atacama spa. But many of them have, indoor pools and hot tubs and saunas. But then also, I think I have a picture later of outdoor jacuzzis where you can sit under the stars and have a glass of wine and enjoy a beautiful evening outdoors. And Tierra Patagonia has this gorgeous studio for doing yoga, which who wouldn't want to do yoga there? So if you're a yoga fan, getting that in before you go out for the day or perhaps at the end of your day is always nice. And then, so Tierra Atacama, which is obviously near the desert. Tell us a little bit about, here's a photo of some kids playing in some springs with waterfalls and rocks. Where is this related to the hotel?
This is in Puritama, so it's just about a 20-30 minute drive from the hotel. And these are natural hot springs, which you can bathe in, as you can see in the photos, and it's really very nice. There's also another option where you can actually do a hike through the Guatemachi Valley is what it's called. And that's a valley along a river, which is where the hot springs end up. So you start like at the bottom of the river and you go through this gorgeous valley with all of these cactus, these giant cactus all around. And you end up at the Puritama hot spring. So those are kind of two options. You can either drive directly there and bathe, or you can do the whole hike to get there. So you have your more adventurous option and your option for maybe families with kids that don't want to do the whole hiking, or maybe if you're just a little bit more relaxed and not interested in the more physically strenuous option. There's really a way to get there for everybody.
Awesome. And then the sunsets. I mean, you just look at this photo. This one is just over Santiago, right? And then you also have them over the lagoons and the craters and the mountains. They're just stunning. And again, for a photographer, it's dreamy. But for anybody who just wants to sit outside at the end of the day and have a few relaxing moments, the sky definitely gives you a changing landscape to look at. And I love bringing back up the salt flats again. Tell us a little bit about floating out there in these salt flats and how relaxing that is.
Yeah, this is Laguna Cejar, so the Cejar Lagoon in Atacama. It's, again, only about a 20-30 minute drive from the center of San Pedro of Atacama, and it's kind of like the Dead Sea where the salt content is so high in the water that you just naturally float. So it's really fun, especially when it's really hot out during the day, to bathe in there. Apparently the salt is supposed to be really healing for your skin. Although you do come out and you're just covered, your whole body is like white and covered in this hard rocky salt, but there are of course showers nearby to wash all of that away. But it's just a very healing and fun experience.
Awesome. Well, it sounds lovely. And before we transition to talking about some of the different accommodations throughout Chile, as far as over-the-top experiences in Chile, you and I were talking about this the other day. Oftentimes, we always bring up helicopters and hot air balloons because those are all super fun. I also wanted to bring up the first time that I was in Chile, I went parapenting in Iquique, which is essentially running off the edge of a cliff with a big parachute on you. I did it with a guide, so we were attached, which was very safe. I wouldn't have done it by myself, but also super fun, very over the top because you are floating literally over the top, off the mountains, above the beaches. And it was absolutely stunning. So that's another fun thing that you can do there if you have a real adventurous side. As far as the accommodations, let's touch a little bit on Tierra's got 3 hotels in Chile: Atacama, Chiloe, and Patagonia. Maybe I'm going to pull up some of the pictures and we can just go through, a little bit about some of your favorite aspects of the different places. This one happens to be, we're starting with Awasi actually. So Awasi also has some hotels throughout Chile. And, this is a beautiful outdoor living room where, at the end of the day, you're sitting next to a fire and some super comfortable chairs. It just looks so inviting to me. And they all have beautiful pools. Awasi is the one that happens to be Relais and Chateau. They have a very distinct style of, their building and their rooms. And so that's one of the things that I love about what I do is helping figure out what is the right match for my client in these places, because some places are super contemporary and clean lines and very sort of architectural modern. And other places are like this, where they've got, thatched roof rooms. And so, what is the right one for somebody? This one is of Tierra Atacama. Love this style. You want to tell us a little bit about what you love about Tierra Atacama?
Yeah, so Tierra in general, our style is very much kind of understated elegance or understated luxury. So as you can see, it's very simple. We've just brought in all locally sourced materials, locally woven blankets, and locally made lamps. Everything is very much local, and the whole idea is to give you a sense of place. And you can't see it there. You can kind of see it in the photo right above the little wall outside. You can see the start of the Licancabur volcano. And all of our rooms actually face the volcano. So, and that happens in each of the hotels. So you're looking at what you came here for, which is of course in Atacama, the volcano. But that's kind of what Tierra is about, is understated elegance and really focusing on bringing the outside into the hotel.
And I know another thing that you guys are focused on, which I love, and I think Chile as a country is very good at this, but sustainability. Tell us a little bit about sort of Tierra's overarching, sustainable initiatives and how they actually weave it into the fabric of their everyday work.
Yeah, so sustainability is definitely a very big issue here in Chile, and I actually feel like we're doing a really good job here as a country compared to the U.S. I'm very sorry to say that, but we're making really big strides just in general. Like, nobody uses plastic bags anymore for, I think it's been years now. So it's definitely something that's very important. It's very important to Miguel Purcell, who's the owner and founder of Tierra Hotels. And Tierra Atacama was the first of the 3 that he decided to build. And part of his view was to build all sustainable properties that would not take away anything from the incredible environments that they are in, but rather protect and give back to the local community. So if you go to the hotels, you may see that, that we don't use any single-use plastics. We have the reusable water bottles and our water filtration system, but there's also a lot of things that you might not see that are just woven into Tierra's just regular day-to-day functioning, like the alfalfa that you see behind the couples there. In the hotel, we actually have a program with the local horse owners. So when you do horseback riding, we have a kind of a trade with them where we give them all of our alfalfa for free to feed their horses, and in exchange they do the horse rides for us. So it's a really good partnership. Yeah. And even our staff at the hotel, a lot of them, we work with a dual education program in Atacama. So a lot of the high school kids do dual education, which means that they also work. And then a lot of them start working at the hotel and they end up working full-time jobs and starting their careers with us at Tierra Atacama.
Right, which is amazing. So the people that you employ are local people, and it's not just for entry-level jobs, but they stay there and they rise up to be a real part of the hotel, you know, for over a long period of time, which is wonderful to allow them to stay in their communities too, and not have to go to big cities for jobs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
I love this picture because it's a group of friends sitting around a fire pit, drinking some wine on a beautiful, gorgeous evening in the desert. Who wouldn't want to be there with their friends? And I love this. You guys have big maps. I know at least in 2 of the hotels. Do you have them in all 3 of the hotels?
Yeah, in all 3.
In all 3 hotels. So when you're there in the morning, you go over to this huge map that, gives you the lay of the land, all of the topography of what's around you and different places to go. And with your family or your friends, you can scout out your day and talk with the guides who are at the hotel to help you plan out what you might want to do. It's just a really fun sort of hands-on way to look at what your plans are. And then, of course, you have gorgeous pools as well outside. You are in the desert, so everybody's going to need a pool. Anyway, so that's stunning too. Then if we hop over to Easter Island, where you guys don't have a hotel, but there is a gorgeous Explora hotel there. Easter Island, not being a super, populated place, doesn't have a lot of options, but there are definitely a handful of options to stay there. Explora is a popular one, and it's a beautiful hotel. And I love this picture of Patagonia Wasi again. They all have great food. This just happens to be a really beautiful photo of, it looks like some, fresh mariscos, shrimp. But every day, you're having things like this. So you're eating healthy. You're not overeating on your trip. You're eating healthy and having a great time. And then this is one of the hot tubs. This one's at Awasi, but many of the hotels have the sort of hot springs outside that you can go to, or a hot tub or jacuzzi tub to be able to enjoy being outside, because it really is the point of being in Chile is to be outside and enjoy the gorgeous environment. And then this one I think is kind of fun. This is one of the dome hotels, the Eco Camp. I actually met them at a conference. I kind of wanted to throw that in there because for people who have a little bit more adventurous bent, this is in Torres Del Paine, and they actually have a family dome. This one I think is a 2-floor one. And they even have a yoga dome at this hotel too, where people are doing yoga in a big dome, which looks kind of fun for somebody who wants to have a little bit more unconventional accommodation. And you guys, your hotel in Patagonia is stunning. The rooms obviously have stunning views. So tell us a little bit about the Patagonia Hotel.
Yeah, so the hotel itself was actually built around the view. So we have 40 rooms here. And all 40 rooms, there you can see, are looking directly at the entire Paine Massif right in front of us. And it was really built to look like it was just naturally carved out by the Chilean winds, and it blends in perfectly with the pampas around us. There, of course, we're looking at it from above, but when you're on the ground level, you really can't see it until you're right at the front doors. You just don't see it coming, and then all of a sudden you have these big red doors right in front of you. So it's very cool. Your
design for sure is super cool, super contemporary, and I love this. This is, I think, also in Tierra, Patagonia, where you can just hang out in some hanging hammock chairs and read a book, or contemplate what you're going to do the next day. And even the beautiful living room, where again you're looking out at that same view that you have from your bedroom, sitting by a gorgeous fire, having a glass of Chilean wine at the end of a long day.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a great part about being, because we're actually located outside of the park, but a good advantage of that is that because there's no other people around us, we do see a lot of wildlife just right in front of the windows outside of the hotel.
mhm. And you and I talked about that the other day about what, the advantages of being in the park and not being in the park, because there are the option to do one or the other. So one of the advantages of being outside the park are, like you said, fewer people, more wildlife. During high season, these parks, they might seem super remote to us, but they get busy. And so if you are staying in them, it's great because you're inside and you're not having to travel that extra distance in the morning. So there's definitely advantages, but the trade-offs are that there's going to be more people around you while they're there. And I think for you guys, it's about a 15-minute drive from your hotel to the park entrance. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we do offer all of the classic excursions inside the park as well. Like you said, it does take a little bit longer to actually get to some of them, especially we're on the northeastern quadrant outside of the park. And there are some that are going to be like the Great Glacier boat ride I mentioned earlier is about an hour drive to get there from us. So you would need to consider that if you'd rather be closer to those excursions and cut down on your driving time, or if you prefer, the peace and quiet of being a little bit further and taking your time in the morning to get to these places.
And if you do stay at the Tierra Patagonia, you also get to hang out in this pool.
Yeah, that's our Instagram famous pool.
It is beautiful. So you hang out in the pool looking out at these stunning mountains on a gorgeous day. So no complaints there for sure. And, when you are, we go to these places, you're going to be out hiking and adventuring during the day, being active. But it is really nice to obviously go back home to a place where you're going to feel pampered, or you're going to just relax and enjoy and have wonderful food. It's a really nice complement to a very active vacation. And this is a picture of the Explora in Torres Del Paine, and it's also a very contemporary look. Again, just another option. I guess next we're going to Santiago. I only have one picture of a Santiago hotel, and that is the Singular. There is a Ritz-Carlton there as well. I think that one's a little bit more in the financial district. So to be a little bit in a more residential district, we like the Singular Hotel, and the style is obviously a little bit more traditional. But if you're in Santiago, it's a great option to get you to be in a really good neighborhood and not be too far from some things that you'll want to do and some great restaurants to have.
We have a really great rooftop bar too, with amazing views of the Cerro San Cristobal right in the city.
Okay, and I bet also amazing views of that gorgeous sunset.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
definitely want to do happy hour there.
Yeah, I love rooftop bars, so I just made a note. I'm gonna put that on my list. And then Chiloe is not too different of a cool contemporary design. So, I mean, look at that in the next picture, even from the side angle is super cool. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, and that one you can kind of see like the stilts that I was referring to easier. It looks kind of like it's floating.
And do they all have different architects, all three of the hotels?
Yes, all three of them have different architects, but with our Tierra style.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. And here's an example of the living room. Also super comfortable with gorgeous big, floor to ceiling windows so you can see the gorgeous environment that you're in. And another really good pool to sort of luxuriate in. And again, like you said, clean lines, luxurious, elegant, understated. You're not going to find any ornate furnishings or, heavy drapes or anything in any of your hotels. So it really gives you an opportunity to be in a lovely setting and have the outside be the focus of why you're there. What about some of your favorites? Let's talk a little bit about that. Do you have a favorite, place for a cocktail in Santiago other than the rooftop of the Singular?
Yeah, the rooftop of the Singular is very nice. I do also like the Barrio Italia. So it's called the Italian neighborhood, not because there's Italians here, but that's just the main street name is Italia Street. But it's a really fun kind of bohemian neighborhood. It's got tons of bars and restaurants and boutique shops. On some days of the week, they actually close off the street to cars, so it becomes all pedestrian. And the shops will actually bring out their stands onto the street. They'll have live music. This happens like maybe once or twice a month. So it's a really fun residential neighborhood, and lots of great food and bars here. I actually love Ruka Bar, which you're not going to find any tourists at, but they have really great elevated cocktails, and they specialize in gin. So if you like gin tonics or specialty gin cocktails, that's a great option. And then another one would be also in Barrio La Staria, which is where the Singular is located. It's a very cool kind of university type neighborhood. It's downtown. It's got really beautiful cobblestone streets and these gorgeous old buildings. They have a lot of great options there as well. Besides the Singular, I like the, oh my gosh, I just forgot, Liguria Bar, which is also very typical Chilean. They'll have Chilean bands come in and play. I don't mean bands, I mean like little old guys playing accordions. It's just really fun as well. They have great drinks and great Chilean food.
Okay, and I think another one that you told me about the other day was Casa Luz.
Yes, Casa Luz is also great. That's going to be for very gourmet, elevated food as well, right here in Barrio Italia. I say here because I live here in Barrio Italia, so I am a little bit particular, I guess, to my neighborhood. But Casa Luz is a great option. It's in an old house, a traditional old house here, which in the middle of the house has this open patio with really classic black and white tile floors, brick walls. It's just really beautiful, renovated, modern old space. And the food is amazing. It's all local, fresh ingredients. And they will do occasionally really nice tasting menus with local wineries. So they'll bring in some, probably not one of the big wineries, but like a smaller local, maybe family owned winery. They'll bring them in and they'll create tasting menus alongside them with their wine pairings. It's a really fun place to go to.
So fun. All right, so let's transition before we go to takeaway tips. So if people are coming to Chile, I always like to give people guidelines as far as how much time at a minimum do you need. They could easily pair your 3 hotels, so Patagonia, Atacama, and Chiloe together. Yeah. If they were to do that, how many days?
To do that comfortably, I always say 14 days, so 2 weeks. And that's going to include, because you do have to consider it takes you 2 nights to get from the States to Chile and then to fly back. So there you have 2 nights already. And then that gives you about 2 weeks to comfortably do Atacama. I usually recommend a night in between Atacama and Chiloe and Santiago. So you could do 1 or 2 nights in Santiago and maybe a winery, and then go down to Chiloe, and then from Chiloe down to Patagonia. But I feel like you don't like to rush. You do have to think that, it's a long travel time in between the hotels. So you have to consider that, and you don't want to feel at the end of your trip like you spent more time traveling in between properties than actually enjoying each place. So to do that, like I say, comfortably and have enough time to really feel like you experienced each place, I definitely say at least probably 2 weeks.
And I think that Santiago is one of my favorite international cities. So I think if you're going to go down there, even if you're just, into active and adventure, you definitely want to spend a couple of nights in Santiago, or maybe even 3 or 4 if you want to do some day trips out of there. I would agree with you on that one. And do you think, so the weather, when you are talking shoulder seasons, right? So let's say like April, May, September, October, November timeframe. Is there either one of them any direction that you would go if you were, visiting the desert, Patagonia, and maybe off the coast?
Not really. There's not too much difference there because, like I said, the climate, especially here in the middle of the country, is pretty stable. But I guess the advantage of going in springtime, which is your fall, so that will be September, October, specifically in Patagonia, is that that's when the animals are starting to come out after winter, and you do see a lot of baby animals, so baby lambs and puma cubs and baby guanacos. So that's really nice if you're more into the wildlife. Another great option would be to come in our fall if you're more interested in wine. That's going to be the harvest season. So around March, April, May. That's a great time to be here in Santiago because that's when a lot of the nearby vineyards are doing their harvest celebrations, which is really fun to participate in.
Mm-hmm. And if somebody was to go to Patagonia, I mean, Patagonia is a pretty cold place, right? So no matter the season, but if they're going there during the summertime, I know the weather can be much more inconsistent during the day, right? So you have to leave. You have to leave your place very prepared to have 4 different types of weather before you get back again.
In one day, yeah, definitely. So I mean, you do have to be prepared no matter what, but it does tend to be a little bit more stable in those shoulder season times. It might be colder, but like you said, it's going to be cold no matter what. You're almost down to Antarctica there, so it's going to be pretty cold. And we do recommend doing shoulder season because it's not going to be as windy as it is in the summertime. I mean, in summer, I've literally seen videos of people holding on to branches and trying not to blow away on certain hikes. And you also aren't going to have as many tourists, like you mentioned earlier, that inside of the park can feel pretty crowded during the high season. So it's really nice if your goal is to really disconnect and feel like you're a part of Patagonia and experience it for yourself. Definitely go for the shoulder season.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good advice. For all of us who have it on our list, this has been a wealth of information, lots of great insights. I think for people who are active, adventurous, Chile is a great option to go to for your next family vacation, multi-generational trip with teenagers or young adults. And it allows you to have varying level of activities because so many of the adventures and activities are going from the hotel. So if somebody wants to take a pass one day and stay back and just luxuriate in the spa, that's an option too. So
yeah, definitely. There's something for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This has been so fun. I love talking about everywhere in Latin America, South America, Central America. So it's always a pleasure when I get to have somebody on to talk about it. And I look forward to having more Americans come back to Chile again soon. So thank you again for your time and your expertise. All right, take care.
Thank you so much, Mimi.
Bye-bye.
Bye.